We spend so much of our lives chasing happiness, like it's some prize at the end of a flawless race. We run faster, smile harder, shrink our needs, and stretch ourselves into shapes that don't quite fit, all to be worthy of joy. But joy isn't something earned, it's something claimed. It is a decision we make in every moment, not a gift that appears only when life looks perfect. We're taught to believe that happiness arrives once everything is in place, once we have approval, security, success. But the truth is, those are temporary highs. Real happiness begins when we choose to see light in places others miss, when we're kind to ourselves on days we feel unworthy, when we realize that the storm doesn't need to end before we can feel the sun inside us. Believing in yourself doesn't mean thinking you are invincible. It means knowing that your vulnerability is not a weakness, that your flaws are not failures, that you can fall and still be deserving of love, grace, and a second chance. We live in a world that sells us polished images and perfect stories, but the bravest people I know are the ones who stand in their truth and say, "This is who I am, and I am still learning, and I still deserve peace." And so, when life gets messy, and it will, you must remember that you are not broken. You are becoming. Growth doesn't arrive with comfort, it arrives with friction, with mistakes, with questions that don't have answers right away. So if it hurts right now, it doesn't mean you've lost your way. It might mean you're finally on it. Your inner voice matters more than any noise around you. The way you speak to yourself when no one's watching, that's what writes the story you believe about who you are. So speak gently, speak like you would to someone you love. If you're searching for peace, stop looking outside. Your peace begins when your life aligns with your values, what you stand for, what gives you meaning, not what gets the most likes, not what keeps others comfortable, but what makes you feel like you're truly living. Be honest, be brave, be you, even when it feels easier to hide. Because the moment you choose authenticity over approval is the moment you begin to taste real freedom. And that freedom, that is the soil where happiness grows, no matter the weather outside. Happiness is a conscious choice, not a circumstantial reward. It is not something that magically appears when everything in life is perfect. It's not reserved for those who've checked all the boxes or escaped hardship. Happiness in its truest form is an internal state, not an external outcome. Life is full of unpredictable moments, some joyful, some painful. But what remains constant is our ability to choose how we respond. That choice is where our power lives. Many people wait for happiness, tying it to conditions. I'll be happy when I get the job, or when they love me back, or when everything calms down. But those are moving targets. Even when those things arrive, they don't guarantee the deep grounded sense of contentment we long for. Why? Because happiness tied to circumstances is fragile. It shatters the moment something changes. Real happiness, lasting happiness, comes when we decide to find meaning, gratitude, and presence, even in the middle of imperfection. Choosing happiness means acknowledging pain without becoming it. It means allowing space for disappointment, but not letting it define us. It's not pretending everything is fine. It's choosing to see light even in the shadows. This choice doesn't deny reality. It transforms it. It empowers us to take ownership of our emotional world rather than waiting for the world to hand us a reason to smile. It's in the small, quiet decisions to appreciate the now, to show up with love, to let go of what we can't control. Happiness becomes a practice, not a prize. We can choose it again and again, even in the face of uncertainty. That choice becomes a habit, and over time, a way of life. Not because everything is perfect, but because we decided we didn't need it to be. Belief in yourself starts with accepting your imperfections. It begins in the quiet moments when you stop trying to outrun your flaws and instead choose to understand them. Society often teaches us that confidence is built through perfection, through never making mistakes, always having the answers, always being enough for others. But real lasting self-belief doesn't come from pretending to be flawless. It comes from standing in your truth and saying, I am enough, even in the process of becoming. Perfection is an illusion, a moving target that keeps us chasing something that doesn't exist. When we hold ourselves to impossible standards, every mistake becomes proof that we're not worthy. But when we choose to accept our imperfections, they stop being limits and start becoming teachers. They show us where to grow, where to forgive, where to let go. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. Self-belief grows stronger when we stop fighting the parts of ourselves we've been taught to hide. Insecurity, doubt, scars, they don't make you less valuable, they make you human. And in that humanity, there is courage, there is strength, there is the quiet voice that says, even though I am still learning, still healing, I trust myself enough to keep going. Accepting your imperfections doesn't mean you stop striving to improve. It means your growth isn't rooted in shame, it's rooted in love. It means you can pursue better while knowing you are already worthy. That shift changes everything. You begin to show up with a kind of quiet confidence that doesn't demand attention, but radiates presence. You stop apologizing for existing. You start taking up space without asking for permission. And in that space, your true self begins to rise, not perfectly, but powerfully. Your value isn't dictated by external approval. It's not measured by applause, praise, titles, or how many people like you. Yet so often, we're conditioned to believe it is. From a young age, we learn to seek validation, to make decisions based on what others will think, to shrink ourselves to fit expectations, to bend our worth around someone else's idea of who we should be. But true value doesn't come from the outside. It lives within you, untouched by opinion or recognition. When you hand your worth over to others, you give them power they were never meant to hold. You become trapped in a cycle of performance, constantly seeking approval that fades as quickly as it's given. And in the process, you lose touch with your own voice, your own knowing, your own truth. But there is something sacred in reclaiming that power, something life-changing in deciding that your self-worth is not up for debate. You are valuable because you exist. You are worthy because you breathe. Nothing you do or fail to do can add or subtract from that fact. External approval might feel good. It's human to want to be seen and appreciated, but it must never be the foundation of your identity, because when the applause fades, when the spotlight moves on, what will you stand on? You must learn to validate yourself, to look in the mirror and say, I am proud of who I am becoming, even when no one else is watching. To trust your intuition, your path, your pace, especially when it doesn't match the crowd. That's where real confidence is born, not from chasing acceptance, but from standing in alignment with who you truly are. Approval may come and go, but your value, that stays. It's unshakable, and it's yours to own. Growth often hides in uncomfortable places. It doesn't always look like progress or feel like success. Sometimes it feels like breaking, like being lost, uncertain, raw, but it's in those moments when you're stretched, challenged, and stripped of everything familiar that the deepest transformation takes place. Discomfort is not the enemy of growth, it is the doorway to it. It asks you to leave behind the safety of what you know and step into the unknown where real change can happen. We're taught to fear discomfort, to avoid it, to numb it, or run from it. But what if it's actually a signpost pointing us toward becoming? What if the fear, the doubt, the struggle isn't proof that you're failing, but that you're evolving? Nothing grows in stillness. The seed doesn't bloom in comfort. It breaks open underground, in the dark, where no one can see. And only after that silent breaking does new life emerge. Growth asks you to be honest with yourself. It asks you to let go of habits that no longer serve you, beliefs that keep you small, and versions of yourself you've outgrown. That shedding is painful, yes, but it's also sacred. It's how we make room for who we are meant to be. So if you find yourself uncomfortable, Emotionally, mentally, spiritually, don't rush to escape it. And sit with it. Ask what it's teaching you. There is wisdom in the stretch, strength in the tension. The path to growth rarely comes dressed as ease. It often comes disguised as challenge, doubt, or silence. But if you're willing to walk through it, not around it, you'll find something waiting on the other side, a stronger, wiser, more grounded version of you, one you could never have met without the discomfort that brought you there. You must speak kindly to yourself, especially in the silence. It's in those quiet moments when the world is no longer distracting you, when the applause has faded, when no one else is watching, that the true tone of your inner voice becomes clear. And too often, that voice is not kind. It's critical, sharp, unrelenting. It replays your mistakes, questions your worth, and holds you to standards you'd never demand of anyone else. But the way you speak to yourself in silence becomes the way you live with yourself in the world. The words you whisper to yourself when no one is listening shape the foundation of your identity. If those words are rooted in shame, fear, or doubt, they will quietly sabotage your confidence, your choices, and your joy. But if they're rooted in compassion, understanding, and grace, they will begin to heal the parts of you that long to be seen and accepted. We are so quick to extend kindness to others, yet we struggle to offer that same compassion to ourselves. We believe that being hard on ourselves will make us better, but shame never created lasting change. It only deepens insecurity. Real growth is nurtured by encouragement, by patience, by the soft, steady reminder that we are allowed to be a work in progress and still be enough. So speak gently, especially when you've failed, especially when you're unsure, especially when it feels like no one else understands. Choose words that uplift, not because everything is perfect, but because you deserve to be supported from within. You are with yourself every moment of your life. Let that voice be a source of strength. Let it be the kind of love you've always needed, because how you speak to yourself is how you learn to believe in yourself. Purpose fuels joy. Alignment with it brings peace. Joy is not simply a fleeting emotion. It is the deep, resonant feeling that comes when your life begins to reflect what matters most to you. Purpose gives meaning to your actions, clarity to your choices, and strength to your spirit. When you live from a place of purpose, even the smallest tasks feel sacred, and the hardest days carry a sense of direction. Without purpose, life can feel scattered, busy but hollow, full but not fulfilling. So many people chase happiness through achievement, recognition, or material gain, only to find that the satisfaction fades. But when your actions align with something greater than yourself, something rooted in truth, passion, or service, you tap into a different kind of energy. It's not loud or performative. It's steady, quiet, real, and it fills you from the inside out. Living in alignment with your purpose doesn't mean every moment is easy or clear. In fact, sometimes it means making difficult decisions, walking away from what is expected, or standing alone. But what you gain is priceless. Peace, not the peace that comes from everything going right, but the peace that comes from knowing you are right where you need to be, doing what your soul was meant to do. Purpose is personal. No one else can define it for you. It's found in the things that move you, challenge you, call you to rise. It's found in the moments when you lose track of time or when you feel most alive. Following it requires courage, but ignoring it costs you more. Your peace, your joy, your sense of self. When you live in alignment with your purpose, you stop chasing validation and start living with intention. That's where true joy begins. Not in the noise, but in the knowing. Authenticity is freedom, the bravest form of self-love. It's the moment you stop performing and start simply being. It's choosing to show up as your full, unedited self, even when it feels risky, because in a world that constantly tries to mold you into something more acceptable, more likable, more marketable, choosing to be real is an act of rebellion. and one of the deepest ways to honor your worth. Being authentic doesn't mean having everything figured out. It means being honest about where you are, what you believe, and how you feel. It means saying no when something doesn't align, even if it disappoints others. It means standing firm in your truth, even when your voice shakes. And yes, it takes courage, because authenticity invites judgment, misunderstanding, even rejection, but it also invites connection, the real kind, the kind that's built on truth, not performance. When you choose authenticity, you stop living for the approval of others and start living from a place of inner truth. That shift changes everything. You stop chasing love and start embodying it. You stop seeking permission and start owning your space. And you begin to understand that self-love isn't just about affirmations or self-care routines. It's about the decision to be fully you, unapologetically. This kind of self-love is bold. It's the love that says, I am not perfect, but I am whole. I am still growing, but I am enough. It's the kind that doesn't wait for conditions to be right before choosing itself. And in that choice, you find a freedom unlike any other. The freedom to live on your own terms, to walk in your own truth, and to belong deeply to yourself. That is the truest kind of power. That is where your real life begins. So let this be the truth you carry forward. You were never meant to be a version of someone else's expectations. You were meant to be whole, honest, flawed, and powerful exactly as you are. Happiness isn't something to chase. It's something to choose. Belief isn't something you wait for. It's something you build and your value. It has never been negotiable. Even in the chaos, you can choose joy. Even in the silence, you can choose self-love. Even in doubt, you can choose to rise. Because every time you show up for yourself with kindness, with courage, and with truth, you reclaim your freedom. You write your own narrative. You become unstoppable. Choose yourself, not just once, but every single day. That is where happiness lives. That is where you begin.